For 50 years, the annual meeting of the EBMT has been at the cutting edge of developments in the rapidly evolving science of HCT and cellular therapy. We're here today in Glasgow to celebrate those game-changing scientific discoveries and the people who deliver them to patients. Catch it all right here on EBMT TV. Welcome back to EBMT TV, brought to you from the Scottish Event Campus right here in Glasgow. Well, it's a big day today as we prepare for insightful talks from this year's top abstract award winners at the Presidential Symposium and many more interviews. Let's take a closer look at what we have in store for you today. We'll catch up with the 2024 Van Beckham and Basic Science Award winners.
We are at this time during transplant that we have so much success, but that we have to start looking at trade-offs. What are the risks and the benefits of that therapy?
Take a deep dive into everything to do with donors, from finding the right ones to making best use of the stem cells they so generously donate.
Ensuring that when somebody joins the register, they're really committed. That's really important so that as many as possible of those 41 million donors might be available when they're called on.
And we'll continue our tour of some of the world's leading centres providing state-of-the-art treatment.
Cell and gene therapies are at the forefront of modern advancements in health, providing hope to unmet medical needs.
You'll find EBMT TV on screens, the meeting website and app, and on YouTube and X pages. Now, for the very first time, the annual meeting of the EBMT plays host to the contest sessions, where 5 presenters will battle it out for the top prize. Let's find out more.
There was a large number of applicants, which have been whittled down to a short list of 5 who've been selected to present here today. The contestants in this contest were given a question, and the question was, what lessons can transplant and cell therapy health professionals learn from other clinical and scientific disciplines? Each person will have 15 minutes to present, and there will be some audience voting and a winner announcement at the end.
Because we're seeing a massive expansion in transplantation and cellular therapy activity, we want our young investigators to address the challenges that we all face within this field.
What can we, as healthcare professionals, learn from achievements in sports?
Humankind has always been fascinated by the stars in the sky and looking what is beyond those stars.
What we really focus on within EBMT is innovation. All of the contestants today who were chosen to present had really highlighted within their applications innovative approaches and transcribing information from a diverse range of scientific disciplines and how that can be actually harnessed to drive forward quality within cellular therapy and transplantation medicine.
The topic was very exciting because that is something which we have been thinking of right from the beginning. We've been talking about how to learn from other disciplines and not to just follow the conventional way of developing a therapy. So it was about the story of the CAR T-cell therapy program which developed in India in the last 1 decade. We learned from the automobile industry and how to do the manufacturing like an assembly line instead of just using an automated process, which is though easy but not scalable in our setting, much more expensive. We also learned from the airline industry and how to make complicated processes safe, simple, by converting a lot of SOPs into simple checklists and using it with our healthcare team so that they could implement those processes in a much simple and efficient way.
So there are 2 approaches to how the winner is determined in the contest. The panel has a vote and we have a discussion as chairs of the session, and also all the audience participants use a virtual platform to determine the winner after all the presentations have completed.
Overall presentation that has won the contest, though everyone's a winner, is Hasmukh Jain from Mumbai in India. So congratulations.
Cell therapy is a team science, and we have, I'm presenting here, but several hundreds of my team members have worked on this, and so it's always a team effort. It definitely means a lot to all of them. They're excited about this, the recognition which comes along with this.
So this was obviously the first session that we've had at EBMT 2024, and I'm delighted to say hopefully we'll have this session annually moving forward. I think it was really exciting for us involved in the programme of EBMT 2024 to see this first session and to see attendance at the session and how much energy there was by both the participants and also the audience participation.
This was very interesting. This makes you think about what you have done and what you want to do in the future. So this is very exciting, and I will encourage others also to participate in the coming sessions.
The Van Bekkum is EBMT's most prestigious award and offers attendees an insight into the most exciting developments in the field. Here to discuss her award-winning paper looking at the use of cyclophosphamide in graft versus host disease, I'm joined by Leslie Keane. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Many congratulations on the award. Let's start by talking about where the field is in the use of cyclophosphamide today, and what were you hoping to find with the study?
Thank you. I'm so honored to present this work on behalf of the Bone Marrow Transplant Clinical Trials Network, or the BMT CTN, 1703 and 1801 study. This study, which was published in the New England Journal in 2023, sought to determine whether post-transplant cyclophosphamide could potentially be a new standard for the field for GVHD prophylaxis. And when looking at a combined endpoint, the combined survival with chronic GVHD, post-transplant cyclophosphamide was the clear winner compared to more standard prophylaxis with tacrolimus and methotrexate. But what this study sought to do was to understand the underlying biology of that result, and also to determine whether there were any trade-offs with cyclophosphamide that the field should be aware of.
So the data you gathered for the study was via T-cell receptor or TCR immunosequencing. What was special about this approach, and what's the kind of data that you gathered able to tell us?
Yes, so we combined TCR sequencing with multi-parameter flow cytometry and also single-cell RNA sequencing. But what the TCR sequencing allowed us to do is to evaluate the T cells that reconstitute after transplant at a level of detail that was unprecedented in the field. We were able to profile almost 200 million T cells from these patients on this trial, and it allowed us to draw conclusions that simply were not possible to determine before.
So what were those conclusions? What were the key takeaways, and what does that mean for the future of patient treatment and care?
What we have found is what we think is the reason that post-transplant cyclophosphamide has a positive benefit on chronic GVHD, but may have some risks with infection. We find that the diversity of T cells that reconstitute after transplant in the presence of post-transplant cyclophosphamide is much lower than what the diversity of the T cells that reconstitute after tacrolimus and methotrexate. And we think that this diversity is lower because there are fewer naive T cells. And what we have found is that we can establish a threshold above which, for naive T cells, above which patients are at significant risk for chronic GVHD, and below which occurs with post-transplant cyclophosphamide, where they're much more protected. The problem is that there's also probably a trade-off here. And when you have fewer naive T cells, fewer TCR singletons, you are also potentially at higher risk for infections, including for COVID-19.
And so how do clinicians balance that trade-off then?
I think the most important thing that clinicians need is to be aware of the trade-offs. We cannot anymore in this field say that one prophylaxis regimen or another is quote-unquote the best. We have to think about each individual patient and what they need. Are they more at risk for chronic GVHD? Are they more at risk for infection or toxicity? And make targeted decisions based on our targeted science that we now understand with these prophylaxis regimens.
How has the EBMT impacted your research and clinical practice?
The EBMT is one of the cornerstone organizations in our field internationally. I am a physician that practices in the US, and I'm very active with the American foundations and organizations. And we work hand in hand with the EBMT to make sure that all patients are provided transplants that will be most successful and cure their underlying disease.
I understand that your research is a first in TCR sequencing studies. Tell us about that and what it means to you to be recognized by your peers.
Yes, so TCR sequencing has been an established method for evaluating post-transplant reconstitution, but there's never been a study that has evaluated TCR sequencing and its role in evaluating post-transplant immune reconstitution to the depth and the breadth of this study. So it is been an incredible opportunity and honor to be able to look at patients this deeply. And because we were able to do that, we were able to draw conclusions that simply were not possible before. So I would just say that it's been an honor to be able to do this work and to really look at our patients from this new viewpoint.
And just to finish, what's next, Leslie? Is there more work to be done in this area or new topics that you'll be looking at?
There's much more work to be done in this area. This is only the first study to really look at TCR reconstitution and understand at a molecular and a cellular level what might be underlying both efficacy of transplantation and toxicity. And I think that's where the field is. We are at this time during transplant that we have so much success, but that we have to start looking at trade-offs and understanding for each targeted therapy that we give our patients, what are the risks and the benefits of that therapy.
Leslie, thank you so much for dropping by to speak with us, and many congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Well, now we take you to a cell therapy program focused not only on providing the best care, but also cultivating the next generation of scientists. Let's visit the University of Patras in Greece.
The cell therapy program in Patras, Greece, was established as a part of the medical school, the University Hospital, and the Center for Research and Innovation of the University of Patras. And the center of this program are four pillars: to treat patients, to recruit donors, to innovate, and to shape the science of the future. Starting from scratch in 2006, the cell therapy program has grown into four specialized pillars: the bone marrow transplantation unit, the Donor Center, the Institute of Cell Therapy, and the Master Program Cell and Gene Therapies. In these units, a dedicated team of over 50 healthy professionals are committed to our goals: to provide high standard treatment to our patients, to advance public awareness and recruit volunteer donors, to innovate and perform translational research, and to shape the science of the future.
The EBMT's Basic Science Award is a great way to increase the visibility of basic science at the EBMT meeting and to support up-and-coming young investigators. Well, to talk today about his award-winning research, I'm joined by Haroon Sheikh. Haroon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Well, first of all, many congratulations on the award. I wonder if you could tell us, what was the background to the study and your motivation to do it?
The study basically started a few years ago in our lab when we identified that in the initiation phase of graft versus host disease, alloreactive T cells primarily go to the lymphoid organs. And a few years following this study, two research groups of Pavan Reddy and Geoffrey R. Hill showed that hematopoietic antigen presenting cells are redundant in causing graft versus host disease. So this led us to investigate non-hematopoietic cells of the lymphoid organs if they can activate alloreactive T cells.
And was this building on existing research at all?
Yes, so the research is based on our lab of Andreas Beilhag when he was doing his postdoc in Stanford University.
So tell us a little bit more about what you really chose to investigate further and what did you find?
So basically when I started my PhD, so this is part of my PhD work, and when I started the project was basically I focused on stromal cells because in the lymphoid organs, the T cells home to the T cell zones. However, we identified and we published in JCI Insight in 2022 that these fibroblastic reticular cells do not activate the donor T cells, but rather provide protective niches to the regulatory T cells. So this led us then to investigate the endothelium of the lymphoid organs and whether it can activate alloreactive T cells.
And what did you find?
And we found that indeed the blood endothelial cells in the lymphoid organs are able to provide activation cues to alloreactive T cell, and this results in graft versus host disease.
So what do you think this is going to mean then for the future of treating GVHD? What would you say would be the key takeaways for scientists?
I think the key prospects of the project is basically that the cellular niches in the lymphoid organs are essential, and disrupting these cellular interactions in the initiation phase of graft versus host disease can help alleviate GVHD. And furthermore, we identified in our studies that interferon gamma plays a crucial role in upregulation of MHC class II on antigen presenting cells. So interfering with interferon signaling can help dampen the GVHD. That's what I believe, yeah.
The EBMT has a core set of values and seeks to advance stem cell-based treatments for patients with blood-related disorders. How would you say the EBMT has impacted your research and clinical practice? And what does it mean to you to win this award?
I mean, EBMT provides a strong platform for young scientists and provide them support with their ideas and funding. And this award basically gives, first of all, the recognition of my work, and also motivates me to pursue my ideas, because I'm a young scientist and then would like to pursue my ideas at my own research group. So yes, it gives me inspiration to move forward with my ideas.
Well, let's talk about that very quickly before we finish. What do you think is next? What's the future hold? Which areas will you be focusing on?
Yeah, so basically this research which we will present is supported by Transtregio 221, which is a consortium between 3 universities in Germany, Würzburg, Erlangen and Regensburg. And basically my research now focuses on antigen presentation in graft versus leukemia as well, and also we are looking antigen presentation by the extracellular vesicles and if they can initiate graft versus host disease.
Haroon, thank you once again for joining us, and many congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, we'll hear the story of donor Will Bryant. But first to the Catalan Blood and Tissue Bank, where their innovative hub and spoke model for delivering blood, cord blood, bone marrow, tissues, maternal milk and more is making a big difference for patients in Spain.
My name is Ana Millán. I am the CEO of the Catalan Blood and Tissue Bank, which is the public agency of the Catalan Ministry of Health, whose mission is to guarantee the supply and proper use of blood in Catalonia. Moreover, BST also manages all the donation, processing and supply of cells and tissues, becoming the single SOHO establishment in Catalonia.
Since 2001, we established a hub-and-spoke model to deliver cell therapies. This model means one single cell processing laboratory and one quality control located in the headquarters of the Catalan Blood and Tissue Bank. We name it the Hub. This is connected to 9 collection centers that are inside to the hospital around all the territory, called the spokes. This hub-and-spoke model also provides cell processing service to external hospitals in Spain.
Coming up very soon, we sit down to discuss the ins and outs of donorship in HCT and cellular therapy. But first, let's hear from one of Glasgow's own, Will Bryant, to find out why and how he became a stem cell donor.
About 10 years ago, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, asked me whether I'd signed up to the Anthony Nolan stem cell register, and I hadn't heard of it, but when I looked into it, it just seemed like a complete no-brainer to sign up for it. And then about 4 years after that, I got a phone call saying that I had come up as a match for a patient who needed a stem cell donation. It took a couple of months from that initial phone call to actually sitting in the chair, and it involved sending off for some initial blood tests and then going down to London for a much more extensive medical test just to make sure that I was healthy enough. But after all those processes were finished, we sat in the hospital. It took about 4 hours to donate, and then it was over. A month after donating, I got a letter from the person that I donated to, and it was a very emotional experience to hear that impact from their perspective of what it meant to them, and not just them, but their partner, their children, their grandchildren, all their friends. So that was a really special moment, and it's something that I still really hold very dear to me. We're all searching for a way to have a small impact in this world, and it's something that we can all do. We can all take that step to sign up online, fill in the forms, and then just be ready in case we ever come up as a match for a patient in need. So I think it's an amazing thing to do, and I'd really encourage everyone who's able to sign up if they can.
Now, the successful treatment of patients who receive allogeneic stem cell transplantations is based on many things. But we'd be nowhere without the individuals like Will Bryant who donate their cells to begin with. To discuss everything from finding donors, caring for donors, and making the most effective use of their stem cells, I'm delighted to be joined by Maria Finch, clinical nurse specialist at Great Ormond Street Hospital, London, Bronwyn Shaw, Chief Scientific Director of the USA's Centre for International Blood and Marrow Transplant Research, and Anne O'Leary from Anthony Nolan. Ladies, thank you all so much for joining us.
Nice.
Anne, I wonder if I can start with you. This year, EBMT is celebrating 50 years of EBMT, and with Anthony Nolan, I know it's a similar milestone. Where have we come in terms of being able to find donors for patients today?
So Anthony Nolan is also 50 years old this year and was started in 1974 by Shirley Nolan. And at that point there were no donors anywhere in the world, and Shirley was desperately looking for a match for her son and set up the Anthony Nolan charity. And we now have in Anthony Nolan more than 900,000 donors, but there's 2.4 million donors in the UK, and we're part of a global community of more than 41 million donors. So the odds have changed dramatically over the last 50 years when it comes to patients in need of a transplant.
And how has that progress been made, do you think?
We've just seen great recruitment of donors and great commitment from donors, people willing to give something of themselves to help save somebody else's life.
Maria, let me ask you, from your experience, how effective are the pathways to getting donations for your and your colleagues' patients?
I think pretty good, to be honest. We have access to a worldwide database. So we have an idea pretty early on how likely a patient's going to find donors, and that can really relieve the tensions of both the team looking after the children and also families if they know that there are good match potential donors out there and that it's going to be a short wait to confirm those donors. So it's great.
And are there any gaps in the provision of donors, and how do we ensure equity of access across all communities, all countries and all hospitals?
Obviously, finding a matching option for a patient is the most important thing. Being able to support the clinicians and have a matching option when a patient needs it, that's what we're always aiming for. But there are still people for whom we can't find the best possible option. So there's lots that we need to do about that. So we need to diversify our registry in terms of the ethnicities of the donors who are joining. We need to look at increasing the availability of donors across the world, particularly in areas that are underrepresented on global registries at the moment. We also need to make sure that donors are available, and donor availability is one of our biggest challenges. So ensuring that when somebody joins the register, they're really, really committed. That's really important, so that as many as possible of those 41 million donors might be available when they're called on. But we also need to look at how we can make the most of those 41 million donors. And there are lots of different options for patients now, and we want to make sure that we're able to provide donors when they're needed.
Bronwyn, let me come to you now. What are the ways that we can currently optimise donor selection, and what's this science based on?
I think we find ourselves now in a world where there are multiple different donor choices, and it's actually more important to look at the different options across the donor choices and look at that all at the same time than it is to use sort of a sequential donor selection algorithm as we always used to. First you look at a sibling, then you look at a matched unrelated donor, then you look at other donor types. And with the way that the science have changed with clinical trials, with the outcome registries, I think now we know that it's much more nuanced and you can go quicker for better outcomes for everybody.
And what if we look into the future a little bit? How is this all going to develop?
I think that we are at a very interesting point in development because, as you heard from Anne, we've talked about match, match, match. Now we're saying, actually, let's mismatch. And, obviously this is a paradigm shift. It's taking people a little while to change the gears in their head and look at the different ways we do donor searches. But it's absolutely amazing because we've got great outcomes for patients across the board, whether you're using a matched or a mismatched donor now. And so we know there are other things that we don't yet understand, and that those are what we need to study.
And for patients, does that increase hope then?
Absolutely does. Yeah, that's a great question, because obviously it's the patient sitting in front of you who wants to know, what are my options? How quickly can I go to transplant? And if they can see the whole smorgasbord of all of these different things, it's a lot less anxiety provoking, I guess, than the ones you see. And you see, particularly Maria, who sit there going, well, how many donors are available and which one will be first? And, so I think we're in a different world.
And just in a nutshell, Maria, what difference are you seeing that's making to patients?
A lot of our patients are sick. So the longer they're waiting around, you know, with leukemic patients, there's always the risk that they're going to relapse. They might then need a further course of treatment. Or if they are immunology patients, for example, they could be already sick, or there's always, you know, they're at risk of further infection or getting an infection. So I think, you know, if they know that there's the option of the haplo, then it just takes the pressure off, I think.
Maria, let's just talk briefly about donors. What would you say are the sort of principles that should be used in terms of the approach of care of donors before and after their donation? And are there any particular challenges that they can face?
Yeah, I think so. So I think we need to prepare them. We need to give them the opportunity to ask us questions. You know, what's going to happen? Am I going to get sick with this? What are the risks? And we need to be really clear. We need to give them the opportunity to say no, I guess, because they have absolutely every right to say no. But it's preparation's the key. Give them opportunities to ask questions. And in terms of follow-up, we need to probably be more comprehensive. However, the families are always linked to our team, so you know, they have the opportunity to come to us if there's any issues.
Just to wrap up, I feel we could talk about this all day, but just to close, maybe I could ask all of you, in a sentence or two, what would your final message be to the audience today? Maria, let me come to you first.
I think to be a donor, you are making someone's life, really. You know, I see the reactions of families when they're told that their child has an unrelated donor and who is willing to donate, and they are, you know, forever grateful. You know, they're given the opportunity for their child's life to be saved, really.
Anne?
I mean, I think Maria has said it. The most important thing for us is donors who are available. So I think that if I was giving a message to donors, it would be, if you're interested in joining the register, please do, but make sure that you feel ready, that you're ready to make that commitment, because it is life-changing for families, and it's a really special thing to do.
Bronwyn?
And I'd say from the clinical point of view and for the patients, the most important thing is that there's so many different options at the moment, both matched and mismatched, both related and unrelated donor types. And so when you've got so many options, you need to make the right choices. And so always looking for a clinical trial, making sure that if that's available, it's the best way to answer a question, but otherwise working together with others. If we can work as a community, we can impact the research in a much bigger way. And I think that's critical for us to keep doing.
Thank you all so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's almost it for today. But as we wrap up day 2 of the 50th annual meeting of the EBMT, let's check out what else happened today. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of EBMT TV. Another packed day is over, but there's lots more to come. You'll find EBMT TV on screens, the meeting website and app, and on YouTube and X pages. Do make sure to join us again tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.